Hi everyone, this is part 1 of topic 4, integumentary system of the human anatomy class. The integumentary system consists of the skin and various accessory structures. The skin is also known as cutaneous membrane and it includes a layer of epidermis, which is superficial, and dermis, which is deep. Epidermis is made up of epithelial tissue while dermis is made up of connective tissue. The accessory structures include hair, nails, and the exocrine glands present in the skin, such as the sweat glands, oil, or sebaceous gland. This figure summarizes the components and the main functions of integumentary system. Functions of integumentary system. The main function of the integument is protection. Protection from a wide variety of agents. It can be protection from mechanical abrasion, from chemical damage such as from acids and bases, from microbial or bacterial attack, protection from UV radiation, the skin protects the internal organs, protection from dehydration, or even from excessive heat or cold. The second function of integumentary system is temperature control, which is known as thermoregulation. Your sweat glands produce sweat which evaporates to cool down your body. So it is controlling and maintaining an optimal temperature of your body. As you sweat, along with the water and the salts that come out with the sweat, there is also excretion of some toxic products such as urea and uric acid. So the integumentary system is also helping in excretion. When your skin is exposed to sunlight, there are certain products that are synthesized. It helps in the synthesis of vitamin D. When you touch something hot, you move your hand away, that is sensation. So your skin has special sensory cells or detectors that help in sensation. And last but not the least, the integumentary system also helps in immunity. How? Because you have different types of cells such as wandering macrophages or Langerhans cells which are moving around in the skin, and they protect you from any external danger, any invading pathogens. We're going to study the structure of the skin now. The skin, that means the cutaneous membrane, is made up of two layers. There is an outer epidermis and the inner dermis. Epidermis is made up of epithelial tissue while the dermis is made up of connective tissue. So what kind of epithelial tissue makes up the epidermis? It is stratified squamous epithelium. Stratified means multiple layers. There are about 4 or 5 layers. The layers are known as strata. That's why stratified. Squamous means flat epithelium. There is also a special quality in these cells of the skin. They have a deposition of a certain protein which is known as keratin. So when keratin gets deposited in these cells, the cells are known to be keratinized or cornified, and this protein prevents water loss, so it prevents dehydration. That means the skin cells or the epidermis can also be called as stratified squamous keratinized epithelium. And sometimes in order to avoid such a long description, we simply call these cells as keratinocytes. So if somebody asks you what are keratinocytes, keratinocytes are the epithelial cells of the skin of the epidermis, and these are stratified squamous keratinized epithelial cells. And since it is epithelial tissue, it is avascular. That means there are no blood vessels. Now, underlying the epidermis is the dermis, and the dermis is made up of connective tissue. And because it's connective tissue, that means it's vascular, and it is mainly made up of loose or dense connective tissue proper. Deep to the dermis is hypodermis. So hypodermis is known as a subcutaneous tissue. Please remember that hypodermis is not part of the skin. So skin is cutaneous membrane while hypodermis is subcutaneous. And hypodermis is mainly made up of fat or adipose tissue. And the function of hypodermis is to anchor the superficial epidermis and dermis to the underlying organs. This figure shows a section of the skin. You can see the top epidermis layer followed by the dermis, and then finally deep to the dermis is the hypodermis or the subcutaneous layer. There are two types of skin present in the human body. These are thick skin and thin skin. Thick skin you can find on the palms and soles of your feet. Thin skin is usually found on the rest of the body. So what makes the thick skin thick? It's because the thick skin has an extra layer of cells. So thick skin has 5 layers of cells while thin skin has only 4 layers of cells. And the 5 layers, that extra layer is known as the stratum lucidum. So stratum lucidum is the extra layer present only in thick skin. In thin skin, stratum lucidum is absent. This table differentiates between thick and thin skin. So on the left side, you see a particular feature or characteristic, and then the two columns on the right side, thick and thin, tell you whether it's present or absent or what's the difference between the two. So first feature is thickness of the top layer of skin, which is known as stratum corneum. So in thick skin, the stratum corneum is really thick, while in thin skin, the stratum corneum is thin. Now if you look at stratum lucidum, whether stratum lucidum is present in thick skin? Yes. Is it present in thin skin? No. Another feature, hair follicles. Do you see hair follicles or hair on your palm and soles? No. So hair follicles present in thick skin? No. Present in thin skin? Yes. Sebaceous glands, that means oil glands. Oil glands are also absent in thick skin but present in thin skin. Arrector pili muscles, these are the muscles that are responsible for producing goosebumps. Are these muscles present in thick skin? No. Present in thin skin? Yes. There are 4 types of cells found in the epidermis. The most abundant one is known as keratinocytes, about which we've already discussed. These are stratified, squamous, keratinized epithelial cells. The second one is known as melanocytes. The melanocytes produce the pigment melanin, which is responsible for the dark color in your skin or your hair. And these cells are located deep in the epidermis. The third type are sensory cells, which give you the sensation. Those are Merkel or tactile cells. The last one is Langerhans or dendritic cells. These are wandering macrophages, responsible for immunity. The epidermis has several layers or strata of cells. Thick skin has 5 layers of cells and thin skin has 1 layer less, that is 4 layers of cells. So we have to learn about these layers. Going from superficial to deep, the first layer, that means this is the outermost layer of the skin, is known as stratum corneum. This layer is made up of all dead cells and they are filled with the protein keratin. And this keratin protein makes the cells water resistant but not totally waterproof. The second layer is stratum lucidum, which is present only in thick skin but not in thin skin. Lucid means clear, so this is a glassy clear layer. The cells are again all dead, and this layer comes after stratum corneum. The third layer is known as stratum granulosum. The word granulosum comes from granule because these cells contain very dark colored granules. These are keratohyalin or lamellar granules. In this layer, the cells are partially dead and partially alive. The superficial cells are dead, but the deep cells are alive. And in the cells that are still alive, there is no mitosis, so no cell division going on. After stratum granulosum, the fourth layer is known as stratum spinosum. Spinosum comes from the spiny appearance. The cells here look spiny because the cytoplasm shrinks, but the cytoskeleton is still intact. So those protein fibers of the cytoskeleton are still sticking out. This layer of cells is alive and there is limited mitosis, that means cell division going on. The deepest layer is known as stratum basal or stratum germinativum. Here the cells are alive, there is rapid mitosis going on, a lot of cells are being produced, and there are melanocytes you can see, so melanin pigment will be produced in these, and due to mitosis the new cells, the daughter cells that are produced, they are pushed upward and they migrate to the more superficial layers. So this figure gives you the 5 layers of epidermis. Remember that only the thick skin will have 5 layers. The thin skin will not have 5 layers. In the thin skin, the stratum lucidum is absent. So from top to bottom, that means from superficial to deep, the layers are stratum corneum, stratum lucidum, stratum granulosum, stratum spinosum, and stratum basal. An easy way to remember this is using this mnemonic. If you want to go from bottom to top, then the layers would be Britney Spears glows like candy. So B stands for stratum basal, S stratum spinosum, G stratum granulosum, L stratum lucidum, and C stratum corneum. Now skin has a variety of color in human beings. We have all shades from the lightest light to the really dark skin, and skin color is attributed to some of these factors. The first one is the combination of various pigments, pigments such as melanin, pigments such as keratin, or even hemoglobin pigments. In addition to these pigments, the blood supply in the dermal layer also influences. If you have a reduced blood flow, it produces a pale color. Also, the thickness of the stratum corneum produces different hues of skin color. This figure shows melanocytes producing melanin in stratum basal. Deep to the epidermis is the dermis. The dermis consists of connective tissue. The dermis is also part of the skin. Now the dermis also has two layers. The superficial layer is known as papillary layer and the deep layer is known as reticular layer. It's also shown in the figure. The papillary layer derives its name from the dermal papillae. The papillae are peg-like projections that indent the epidermis. You can see they form these wave-like structures. The papillary layer is made up of loose areolar connective tissue, and you can see blood vessels such as capillaries and some nerve axons in this layer. The deeper reticular layer is made up of dense irregular connective tissue, and you can see hair follicles, sweat glands, and sebaceous glands in this layer. Friction ridges. Friction ridges are produced by the combination of epidermal and dermal ridges. In the dermis, there are ridges known as the dermal ridges. These produce dermal papillae. And then the dermal papillae in turn cause the above epidermis to form epidermal ridges. So together, the epidermal ridges and the dermal ridges form the friction ridges, which are actually genetically determined and they are unique to the individual. Their main function is to enhance the grip. So what happens is the sweat glands, the sweat gland duct opens, it goes up and it opens along the crests of the epidermal ridges. So whenever a person sweats and then you touch something, you leave a thin film of sweat on that object. And this thin film of sweat is known as the fingerprint. And we all have our individual fingerprints because the friction ridges can be loops and whorls, and we have this unique combination of friction ridges. This figure shows you on the left side how the dermal papillae are causing the epidermis to form the epidermal ridges. Then panel B and C show you the difference in the thickness of stratum corneum between thin skin and thick skin. Our skin contains collagen fibers and elastic fibers. Collagen fibers, they provide tensile strength, that means they resist stretching, while elastic fibers do the opposite. They allow the skin to stretch and recoil. Now, as a person ages, these fibers, there is wear and tear in these fibers and the repair mechanism slows down. So the fibers are really not as effective as they are in youth. So a person gets wrinkles. Now, skin wrinkles are mainly due to age. Second is a change in hormone levels due to anxiety, stress, whatever that could cause premature wrinkles, and also exposure to UV light. So those people who have to work for long hours in the sunlight, they also get wrinkles sooner than those who don't. Stretch marks are caused when there is excessive weight gain in a very short period of time, such as during pregnancy. So this causes the reticular fibers in your skin to break, and therefore the skin does not recoil. And as a result, there would be wrinkles in the skin, and this causes stretch marks. The collagen and the elastic fibers in our body, they have a tendency to organize or arrange themselves parallel to each other. So there's a parallel pattern there, and these lines are known as cleavage lines. Now during surgery, Surgeons usually try to do incisions parallel to the lines of cleavage to reduce scar formation. Okay, and so the skin heals rapidly if the incision is parallel to the cleavage lines. The dermis, which is made up of connective tissue, contains blood vessels, nerves, and lymph vessels. There are two main networks of blood vessels. Those networks are known as plexus in the dermis. The first one is called cutaneous plexus, which is between the reticular layer of dermis and the underlying hypodermis. And the second plexus is the subpapillary plexus, and their function is thermoregulation. They are controlling the body temperature. If the body is getting excessively hot, then the blood would carry more heat and it would dissipate out. This figure shows the subpapillary and the cutaneous plexus. The function of the nerves in the skin is to adjust the secretion rate of the glands, such as the sweat glands and the sebaceous gland. The nerves also control how much blood would be flowing to the skin, and the nerves monitor the different detectors or sensory receptors the skin has. Some examples of the receptors are the tactile corpuscles or the Merkel discs, which are receptors for fine touch, or the Ruffini corpuscles, which are stretch receptors, or the lamellated corpuscles, which are deep pressure and vibration receptors. This figure shows the tactile corpuscle and the lamellated corpuscle. We have covered epidermis and dermis. That means we've covered skin. And now moving on to hypodermis, which is technically not part of the skin. The hypodermis is also known as the subcutaneous layer and the superficial fascia layer. It is made up of areolar and adipose connective tissue. It also contains major blood vessels. This figure shows the location of the hypodermis or the subcutaneous layer in the histological section of the integument.